it looks like it is time to go ahead and get started. Hey, welcome to At The Track Live. My name is Coach James. I am the creator and lead instructor for All About Aerodynamics. What is All About Aerodynamics, you ask? Glad you asked, even if you didn't ask. All About Aerodynamics is a science program where I use Hot Wheels cars to teach kindergarten through 6th grade students about physics, about aerodynamics, about drag, about lift, about kinetic energy, about potential energy, about force, about Isaac Newton and his 3 laws of motion, about a whole range of other aerodynamics related topics, and the scientific method. We use the scientific method to help the students understand that they can use the scientific method to address any number of challenges and problems that they come across, not just in the classroom. And once we have learned about all of the science topics and we've conducted experiments to drive home those concepts, then I bring in about 400 different Hot Wheels cars. And each student selects a Hot Wheels car they think would be fastest in a series of races based on everything that they have learned in the class. Then, once they've picked their cars, they've examined their cars, they've taken a picture of their car, they have recorded all the information about the year the car was manufactured, the name of the car, they weighed the car, they put all the information into a spreadsheet, and then they are ready to race. We set up a 1/64th scale quarter-mile drag strip, and we have a tournament, and they race the cars. And while they're racing the cars, they observe how their cars performed, and they make a determination after the race. Did their car perform up to or below their expectations? And if they had the opportunity, would they choose that car again? That's the thing. Or would they make a different choice? So in the end, they learn about physics, they get to have fun with Hot Wheels, and all around we have fun and learn and what could be better. So that is All About Aerodynamics. And if you would like more information about All About Aerodynamics and the various options we have to bring to your school or your organization or your special event, all you have to do is go to our website, aaerodynamics.com, or you could just follow us on Instagram. And then the link is in the bio, and you can contact me if you want to have any other questions answered about our program, what we offer, how we can help your students learn and have fun with Hot Wheels cars. So that is All About Aerodynamics. But this is not aerodynamics. This is All About Aerodynamics presents At The Track Live. And what is At The Track Live? At The Track Live is where I introduce new cars into the fleet. So I mentioned that I take hundreds of cars into the classroom for the students to use. But before I can take those cars to the students, I have to catalog those cars so that I can have them organized and make sure I know which cars I'm bringing in, which cars, which groups of students are using, and make sure that I bring them all back, easily organize them so they're ready to go for the next group of students. And like most Hot Wheels enthusiasts and collectors, I have hundreds of Hot Wheels cars that I have purchased, but I haven't introduced into the fleet just yet because I have to do this cataloging process. So about a year ago, more or less, I came up with the idea for At The Track Live, which it helps me because it gives me an opportunity, it puts me on a schedule to actually introduce more cars into the fleet. And here we are every Saturday. What I do is I go into the storage, I pull out 6 Hot Wheels cars that haven't been opened. We crack those open, take a look at them, have a little review. I take a picture, I shoot the video because there's an online version of All About Aerodynamics. And since the students aren't going to get a chance to see the cars in person, the 360 video helps them in their selection. I take the video, shoot the picture, enter the information into the spreadsheet, and boom, we have 6 more cars for the students to choose from during the All About Aerodynamics program. But why does it have to be live? Why is it At The Track Live? It's At The Track Live because you have an opportunity to participate. And all you have to do, if you want to participate, is go to AtTheTrack.live, and you will have 3 options. One is the YouTube stream link. The other is the Twitch stream link, which you don't need because you're already here. But the third option, is choose a car. And if you select that option for choose a car, it will take you to this page where all of the cars in the All About Aerodynamics At The Track Live fleet are pictured, labeled, and organized. And you can scroll through and see all of the cars in the fleet. We currently have 685 cars in the All About Aerodynamics At The Track Live fleet. They are all numbered. So as you're looking through and you say, hey, I like that particular car. Let's say you like this car, the Gangster Grin. And you click on it and you take a closer look and you say, okay, yeah, that car, it's got kind of a teardrop shape, which I know is extremely aerodynamic. I think that car would be fast. Well, all you have to do is then take the number of that car, in this case 276, and drop it into the chat. I'll pull the car, and then once I pull the car, you will have the opportunity to have that car entered into today's tournament, because the 6 cars that I pull out of storage and introduce, we have a little mini tournament, and that mini tournament determines the day's champion, and the day's champion is going to be determined by who wins the races. But if you pick a car, you can enter your car into that tournament and you can have the chance to win today's tournament. And then beyond that, you get the opportunity to face our fastest in fleet car. What is our fastest in fleet car? Our fastest in fleet car is the car that has beaten the quote-unquote today's champion. So the car that wins today's race will face our fastest in fleet car. Whichever car wins that race will be the fastest in fleet car, our champion. So then next week, 6 cars are introduced, have the tournament, the winner takes on our fastest in fleet car. And our fastest in fleet car for the past couple of weeks has been this one. It is the Blitz Speeder. And let me just adjust this, want that ratio, and we will zoom in and take a closer look at our champ right there, the Blitz Speeder. The Blitz Speeder got introduced a couple of weeks ago when there was an episode where we were just introducing loose cars, because I found a box of loose cars back in the storage area and decided, hey, let's go ahead and introduce these cars into the fleet. And one of them happened to be the Blitz Speeder. The Blitz Speeder beat the I think it was the Track Tune at the time, which was our current fastest in fleet champion. The Track Tune had been our champion for about 2 weeks after it beat the Draftnator, which was this drag truck that had been champion for a good, I think, 6 weeks. The Draftnator was there for a long time, and to the point that I didn't think we were going to be able to find a car faster than the Draftnator. But here came the Track Tune. The Track Tune beat the Draftnator, and because the Draftnator had been so dominant, I figured, well, odds are that this car that beat it will be the champion for a long time. Wasn't the case. We pulled the Blitz Speeder out of the loose bin in the storage area, and it beat the Track Tune It beat every other car that it's faced. And last week, it completed a pretty impressive run when it defeated 9 different cars. And it was interesting because we had the regular tournament with I guess technically it's 10. We had the regular tournament, and a winner emerged for that day. The Blitz Speeder beat that car, so the Blitz Speeder was our fastest and fleet champion. But then we had a viewer, Henry Stanislavski, who picked a bunch of cars. And initially I was thinking, I'll take all the cars he picked, and then this week I will set those up and we'll have the tournament. But we had some time, so I just went ahead and pulled all the cars, at least most of the cars that he suggested and recommended. And actually, let's get the champ a little more respect. Let the champ spin on his pedestal. But Henry, I pulled his car. I pulled the cars that he picked, and I think I pulled about 4 of them. So we had another tournament. So each one of the cars that he picked went up against the Blitz Speeder, and each car was beaten. But there was one car, the Slide Kick, that actually beat the Blitz Speeder in the first race. So our races are best 2 out of 3. The Slide Kick beat the Blitz Speeder in race number 1, which was surprising because the Blitz Speeder has beaten every car that it's faced. Usually the races haven't been that close. So it was looking bad for the Blitz Speeder. Then race number 2, the Blitz Speeder took it. It was very close. The Blitz Speeder took it by not even half a car length. Less than half a car length. And then we went to the 3rd and final race, and the Blitz Speeder pulled it out. It was a little bit of a wider margin of victory, but it was still extremely close. We had to double check with the lights on the track to make sure. So the Blitz Speeder hung on and defeated the Slide Kick, and then went on to defeat the other cars that Henry had picked. But it just goes to show that in this group of 685 cars, it is likely that there is a car that is faster than our current fastest in fleet champion, which at this point happens to be the Blitz Speeder. But the only way we're going to find out if there is a car in the group that's faster is if you pick the car, because I am only going to be introducing the new cars that are going into the fleet. I am not going to be going back into the archives to pull out cars to compete with. So, once again, just go to AtTheTrack.live and go to choose a car, and then it'll take you to this page, and you can scroll through. And there are 685 cars. There are fantasy cars. There are cars modeled after real cars. There are cars from the 70s. So if you think this 35 Classic Caddy number 122 is going to be the fastest car, then you are welcome to pick it. And all you have to do is put the number of that car, in this case 122, into the chat, and I will pull that car and we'll see if you're right. So there's a range of cars, and 685 is a lot. And for people who are into Hot Wheels, you might say, oh, well, I know a car that's particularly fast, the Mercedes AMG GT. And I have that right here, number 185. But you might not want to have to scroll through and look through 685 different cars to find the one that you're looking for. Couldn't you just search for it? Well, I've mentioned this the past couple of weeks, and I'm still working on it. The website's hosted by Squarespace. The search functionality is terrible. I can put in anything, and it will say no results. I can put in Batmobile, and it will say no results, even though I know that we have at least 5 different Batmobiles in the fleet. Same thing with Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Porsches, all of that. Not returning any search results. I am working on this. I contacted 3 Squarespace web design experts, and none of them had any solution. I was going to pay them to fix this, and none of them had any workable solutions. So I'm still trying. I'm creating and testing a custom Google search option, so you can use the Google search engine and direct it specifically to use with your website. But in order to do that, I have to. It's working. It works, and I've gotten it to work. But in order to integrate it with my website, I have to go to a higher tier package, and I don't think it's fair that Squarespace is going to make me have to pay even more money just so that I can get introduce search functionality, because searching a website is pretty basic stuff. That's pretty early internet website stuff. So I'm still working on that, but until I get a solution, the only option that you have is really to just scroll through all of the cars and find the one that you like best, and the one that you think is fastest, the one that you think can compete with the 6 cars that I introduced today, and possibly take on our fastest in-fleet car, which is the Blitz Speeder. So, again, just go to AtTheTrack.live and select choose a car, and you can scroll through the list. You can scroll through the list while you're listening to me talk about what we're going to do today and the cars that we are going to be looking at. So before I do that, I also mentioned last week that I was working, and I've mentioned it in a few episodes in the past because it's been an ongoing thing, that this item, the Cook's Projects Hot Wheels timer and speedometer, is something that I ordered last year, and I've been going through the process of trying to get it to work. And the manufacturer of this, the customer service has been outstanding, and they've worked with me and sent me instructions for how to fix the issues I was having. And so one of the issues was these sensors right here. When I got the unit, they were they were sticking out too far. And because they were sticking out, the way they were sticking out, the cars, as a car would go through, the odds were that it was going to strike and hit one of those sensors. And if it hit the sensors, they're glass, so they would break. I mean, I believe they're glass. But whatever they are, they would have broken, especially at the speeds that we launch our cars with. And so then I had to go through a process of taking this apart, and I followed the instructions that the manufacturer sent, went through, took it apart, made some adjustments, and then put it back together. It wasn't working just right. They gave me more instructions, and on and on and on. Well, eventually, I did get this. I got it working. I adjusted the wiring as they told me and got it working. And it's a great little device because it not only it can serve as a race finish line and tell you which cars won. It'll tell you the differential between the times when they completed the race. It will. It has a speedometer function, which is what I was most interested in. That is more precise than any other speedometer or option that I've tried to use to measure the speed of the Hot Wheels cars. And there is some additional functionality. They have a spreadsheet and a worksheet, an Excel sheet that with different formulas, and you can calculate the potential and kinetic energy of the cars and lots of different things. So there's so much data that I'll be able to take from this device that I'm excited to really get to start using it with the cars. And so I'm building a modified version of the track that's only going to be used to test the speed of cars, and I'll probably be showing that in the next couple of weeks once I get that completed. But the thing is, so while the manufacturer was helping me to fix the issue I was having, they took the information that I gave them about the problems I was having and actually modified their design. So now if you go to Cook's Project, I'll actually tell you the website. The website is cooksprojects.com, projects plural. So cooksprojects.com, and you can see exactly what the device is and all of the different things that it can calculate. And it's not inexpensive. It's expensive, but if you have a need for this kind of device, or you need serious and precise timing, I would suggest taking a look at it. So while I was in the process of making those adjustments, the manufacturer actually is sending me the newer version, the modified version. So I'll have both versions, and once I get those and have a chance to set up my modified track, then I'll make a longer video review, and I will let you know when that is posted. And maybe it's something that you can use if you race Hot Wheels yourself. So that's out of the way. Also, there's going to be a lot more all about aerodynamics at the track live content coming beginning in August, as sort of ramp up for the school year and really get some new things in place. So stick around. I hope you will enjoy those. But for right now, let's get back to what we came to today, what we came to do today, and that is race Hot Wheels. We're going to introduce some new cars to the fleet, and I'm going to just start off the back. I'm coming out hot right out of the gate, and the first car that we're introducing, I think, is going to be the most serious challenger and the one likely to take out the Blitz Speeder. And it is this one that you probably won't be able to see because it's a green car and there's a green screen, so it's going to look invisible. But believe me, there's a car in here. It's this one that you can kind of see through. This is called the Mach It Go. Mach It Go. We do have a Mach Speeder, and I guess I'd better double check to make sure we don't currently have a Mach It Go. And this is the reason why the spreadsheet is so critical. It's a hassle to kind of set up, but once it's set up, it's such a relief to find all the information. So it's like a lot of things. It's a little pain at the beginning, but in the long run, it's worth it. So let's see. We have a car called the Mach 5. Oh, the Mach 5 from Speed Racer. And we have a Mach Speeder, which was one of the first cars. It was one of our first fastest in fleet champions. But we don't have a Mach It Go. So let's crack this open and take a closer look. The Mach It Go. Get this here. All right, let's take a look at the Mach It Go. Anytime, there we go. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll just shoot the video first. Lock in the focus, and Mach It Go. So the reason why I'm saying that I think this car is of the cars that are going to be introduced today, I think this car has the best shot to beat the Blitz Speeder, is because if you look at each of the cars that has been the fastest in fleet champion going back, so the Draftnator, Track Tune, and now the Blitz Speeder, they have all been fantasy cars, so cars that were not based on anything other than the inspiration of the designer. And they have had the best for track gimmick, which is a label on the package that I still am not sure what exactly it means, but starting to see a trend that if a car has best for track on it, it might be fast. So the Blitz Speeder, best for track. The Track Tune wasn't best for track, but it did have the faster than ever wheels. And we do know that the faster than ever wheels means that the axle on the car is nickel plated, and therefore there is less friction and the wheels spin more freely and, in theory, faster, longer. And then the Draftnator was a best for track car. So the cars that have been winning the last few weeks, or the last couple of 2 months, have all had one of these gimmicks. And we will see if that holds true for this car, the Mach It Go. And when I'm looking at the Mach It Go, so number one, it's got the gimmick. Number two, the back end is right there, is flat. And if you've watched all about aerodynamics at the Track Live, you've heard me say that that's the first thing I look at, because the back of the car, if it has a flat back end, will press up against the launching block and get a good push, a good solid push out of the launching blocks. So that's the first step, getting a good launch. Getting a good launch means that the car is less likely to swerve to one side or the other and fly off the track. So it's got that going for it. Then it's got the best for track gimmick, which I don't know. I'm going to have to look up and see exactly what that means in terms of, is there some mechanical manufacturing difference with the car, or is it just a label they put on there to sell cars? And then also, it's got this low profile. It seems like it's got a good aerodynamic profile. So I am, just based on what I've observed, I think that this car we could be looking at our newest, fastest in fleet champion, but that presumes it can beat the other 5 cars that are going to be introduced today. So let me first get a still picture of this one. And you may notice I changed the angle a bit. I'm still trying to work on it because I always want to get a good 3/4 view of the cars so that the students can, who are participating online, can see the car and get a good feel for it. But and so I'm adjusting, and I think this is probably one of the better views a little bit. I moved the camera up a little bit, and so they can see the back end, they can see the front. And this is it, the Mach It Go. Let me turn it just a bit, just to be a little more consistent with what we already have. There we go. Okay, and I mentioned, let me check the weight. So the weight of the Blitz Speeder, I believe it's 32.4 grams. And the Mach It Go, I bet, is in that same area. Oh, wait. 30.1 grams, so it's actually lighter. So everything is kind of in place for the Mach It Go to become our fastest in fleet champion. Let me check the year, 2021. 2021. And I mentioned the aerodynamic profile. That's another thing. On Kickstarter, there is a company that is building a wind tunnel for model cars and of different scale sizes. So I think it's they have a 118, 164, which is the one I'm interested in because Hot Wheels are 1/64th scale cars. And I bought into the Kickstarter. It's been fully funded, like it's been beyond what they were initially asking. So the manufacturing process should be beginning in the coming months. So I expect by the end of the year, if everything goes according to plan, that I'll actually have this wind tunnel. So when we take a look at the cars, I'll be able to put it in this wind tunnel, and presuming from the videos I've seen and the information, I think the larger the model is of car that you put in there, you'll be able to see more precisely how the wind, how the air flows over, under, and around the car. But I'll be curious to see with the Hot Wheels cars if we actually get what kind of airflow. But it's a pretty unique and interesting project. I forget the name offhand. I want to say Winsible, something like that. I'll get the name and I'll put it up. So if you want to buy into the Kickstarter, you can. And but if I were you, I've already sunk my money into it, so I'm going to get it regardless. So you might want to just wait until I get it, see how it works, especially with Hot Wheels, and then make your decision to purchase. Or you can go out on a limb like I did. Either way. Okay, so we have a fantasy car. So I think let's go with an actual car right now. Next up is going to be this one, the Aston Martin Vantage GTE. And it's got the Gulf livery on there, which is always a good look for any car. I haven't seen a car with that's looked any worse for the wear. But let me, once again, double check, make sure. There have to be Aston Martins in here. But the question is whether or not we have an Aston Martin Vantage. Okay, so we have an Aston Martin 1963 DBS, an Aston Martin DB10, an Aston Martin DBS, an Aston Martin 177, an Aston Martin V12 Speedster, and an Aston Martin Vulcan. So there is no Aston Martin Vantage GTE, and therefore we now have one. So I'm going to crack this open. We'll take a closer look and see what this car is all about. Okay. And this car has no best for track gimmick. It has no faster than ever wheels. It is just straight out of the package. And if I can get it lined up, we can take a closer look. So let's see what we've got here. All right, so we've got our Aston Martin Vantage GTE, and that's the other thing, is that I don't modify these cars at all. I know that there are some channels and Hot Wheels racing enthusiasts, and what they do is similar to like Pinewood derbies. They will put graphite on the axles and change the wheels and do different things to make the cars faster, but I don't do that. How they come out of the package is how they hit the track. So let's take a look at Aston Martin. Get our still picture, and then put the turntable on, and as it comes around, lock in the focus, and I will get this video. There we go. And of course, as the car comes around, I'm going to be looking at the back end. So I see that high wing, and it's flat across the back. So that's good, because it's going to get a flat, it's going to have a large flat surface pressed against the launching block. So it should get a good push out of the gate. I don't think it's going to be faster than that Mach It Go. That Mach It Go, I'm calling it now. I think it's going to be the champion at the end of this episode. Aston Martin Vantage GTE. And this Aston Martin, I think, is going to do, it should do well. I just don't think against that Mach It Go, I don't think it's really gonna stand much of a chance, but you never know, which is the fun and exciting part of racing these cars, is that you just don't know until the cars are actually on the track. Then after you've seen them race, Then you can go back and make assessments based on what you've observed and the data that you've collected. So I'm always excited, but just based on my experience, my hypothesis is that the Mach It Go is going to be the car to beat. So the Aston Martin looks good. Let's see how much it weighs. And I don't have a scale camera yet, but 33.5 grams. So it's not too much heavier than the Blitz Speeder, but it is 3 grams heavier than the Mach It Go. And 2021 is the year for this one. So I'll drop that in. Another 2021 car. So, all right. Next up, let's see. What do we have? What's next? So we went fantasy, reality. We'll go fantasy again. And this is one of those cars that I pick because it will catch the student's eyes. And the question when you introduce cars like this is whether they are going to make their selection based on what they've learned, so their head, or if they're going to go with their heart and they just see a car that they really like, and are they going to pick that car even though there's no aerodynamic reason for them to pick that car. So here we are with the Dragon Blaster, which is one of a number of cars we have that are in the form of or shaped like different animals, some mythical creatures, some actual animals. But the Dragon Blaster, let's take a closer look at this one. And it says, as seen on Netflix, race to the finish line with these iconic vehicles that are up for any challenge. So apparently there is a show on a show on Netflix about Hot Wheels called Hot Wheels Let's Race. I haven't seen it. I don't know if it's a cartoon or what it is, but the Dragon Blaster has apparently been featured on there, but it's going to be featured here at AtTheTrack.live, so let's crack it open and take a look. Okay, Dragon Blaster. This is a real... Let's take a closer look. And when we talk about fantasy cars, it doesn't get any more fantasy car than the Dragon Blaster. So I start at the back end with most of these cars. And looking at the back end, I see a big curled up tail. And that is going to be the only point of contact for the vehicle with the launching block. Now, I'm looking at the tailpipes. I don't know if they stick out further than the tail. That would be better, because then you'd at least have those two pipes pressed up against the launching block when the car is released. And that would probably make for a better launch. But I have no idea how these wings are going to affect the car's performance as it moves down the track. And there are a lot of unknowns. I just can't tell how this car is going to get down the track, if it's even going to stay on the track. But what I do like is look at those front wheels, and I think it's the Dragon's, maybe it's supposed to be his front feet, and how they come out and curve around and they protect the wheels. So at least we won't have to worry about the axles getting bent if this car does crash. One thing I will have to check is whether or not these wings are going to hit and brush up against the tripods that hold the cameras on our track, because they are low and they come down just over the track. And these wings, you know what? The other thing is those wings may prevent this car from even fitting in. No, I thought they might be a little too wide for it to fit in the launching block, but they're a little more. You can see right here. They're a little more tucked in because they don't even extend out beyond the wheelbase. So that is good. And let's go ahead and get the picture. Zoom in. Get that focus locked. And then we will, right here. And the Dragon Blast. This is going to catch some kid's eye. No doubt. No doubt. Now, they might look out, and this car may turn out to be really fast. Let's see how much it weighs. Ooh, the Dragon Blaster comes in at 29.3 grams, which makes it even lighter than the Mach It Go. And in looking at the back end here, right there, let me get the focus right. You see how the tail, I'm trying to tell if it looks like the tailpipes may be sticking out just a little more than the tail. So that means that the tailpipes may be the parts that are pressed against, this part pressed against the launching block. And if that's the case, it may get a better launch than if it was just the tail pressed up against the launching block. It's pretty close. I don't know. So we'll see. Now, it would be ideal for this car if both this edge of the tail and these pipes are extended out the exact same amount, and the launching block is touching both this part of the tail and these tail pipes. That would give it 3 points of contact for the launching block, and that would actually be better for this car. And so, I don't know. This is going to be an interesting one. Let's see. The year on this one is 2009. Because I don't know how these cars are going to perform until we actually race the cars. I have very strong feelings about that Mach It Go, but that's just it. It's just my feelings. So let's see. We've got 3 cars up. We've got the Mach It Go, the Aston Martin Vantage GTE, and we've got the Dragon Blaster. Roughshod Stocks. Hey, stand it up on its end. You know what? See, this is why I'm always getting great suggestions from viewers and things I haven't thought about. And he said, stand it up on its end. There we go. And so we're standing it up right there. And now I can't tell necessarily if, yeah, that looks, because I don't know whether or not it's leaning back at just the right angle, but that's a good idea. And so it looks like it's pretty much standing vertically, and I don't know if it's leaning back on the tail, but I think this car might surprise us. So it's light. It's got an odd shape, and it is. It's pretty close. It's pretty close, roughshod. So we'll see. I'm curious. This might turn out to be better and closer races than I first anticipated. So let's see. So we've got fantasy car with the Mach It Go. We've got the Aston Martin Vantage GTE, and we've got the Dragon Blaster. So we've gone fantasy, reality, fantasy. So let's get back to reality with this one, the Porsche 904 Carrera GTS. This is a small car, and I'll be curious to see what the weight is. So let's crack it open and take a look. Alright, so first thing, yeah, this feels really light. Let's go ahead and weigh it. At some point I'm going to set up a camera for the scale. Okay, so this Porsche is coming in at 26.7 grams. So this is definitely and easily one of the lighter cars that we will have taken a look at. So let's go here and get this focus right. So now, the thing that's interesting is with the track, I created the launcher. I designed the launcher because I needed a launcher that launched the cars with more force. And in the process of doing that, it kind of hurts, or it doesn't hurt necessarily, but it means that picking a lighter car isn't necessarily the best way to go. So having the lightest, smallest car isn't necessarily the way to go, because the launcher shoots the cars out with so much force that if a car is too light, it'll just fly off the track. And despite my best efforts to keep it on there, it will go. So hang on, let me get this this car. So this is car number 689. This is the Porsche 904 Carrera GTS, and it is we haven't had a car this light in some time, and I'm thinking that again, starting at the back end of the car, and as it comes around, I'm going to see it looks curved, and it would be better for the launcher if it was flat, which it may be flat enough to get a good launch, but it's a light car and it's narrow. Narrow cars, if they don't get a perfect launch, then what happens is they hit one side of the track, rub up against that side of the track. That friction tends to slow the cars down, but then we start to see Isaac Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, and if they hit the right side of the track, they're going to scrape there, and then they're going to bounce over to the left, and then they're going to scrape there and bounce to the right. And what you see with cars, smaller, narrow cars that don't get good launches, is they just start to bounce back and forth. And in the course of doing that, they lose momentum, they slow down, and they typically lose. But if a smaller car can get a good launch, then all bets are off, and it could take it. Few months back, we had, let me check the year on this, we had some smaller cars that I'd picked up at the Hot Wheels swap meet in Pasadena, and they were smaller cars, but they were from the 90s, and they were metal on metal, so they were small cars, but they were heavier, and those cars did pretty well. I'll have to see how this one does. This is a metal body on a plastic base, and the year on this one is 2023. So let me get that in there to the spreadsheet. 2023. All right, so we're moving along. We have so far 4 cars picked. We've got 2 more to go. And once again, if you want to participate, you've got time. You've seen some of the cars that you will be competing against, but if you would like to participate, all you have to do is go to AtTheTrack.live, select choose a car, and you will be taken to this page. On this page, all 685 cars that are currently in the fleet are listed, and you can scroll through. If you see a car that you like, I just saw another one that reminded me of this one, the T-Rex Destroyer. If you want to see the T-Rex Destroyer for some reason take on the Dragon Blaster, if you want to have animal versus animal, fantasy animal versus extinct animal, all you have to do is click on it, and you can get a close-up look at that car. And if that's the car that you think you want to see race, all you have to do, because I've already done the work, all you have to do is take this number, in this case 96, drop that into the chat, I'll pull the car, and we will see if you are correct. So I just saw a hovercraft. There's a wide assortment of vehicles in here. We've got this. It has been picked. A student did pick it. I don't know if they necessarily picked up on all the aerodynamics and physics lessons that we were going over, but that was the car that they picked, and that's the car that raced. It did not win, needless to say, but that's the one they picked. We do have some Matchbox cars in here. This is one that I had when I was a kid. So there are cars, and this one, yeah, you can tell I played with this car a lot. And as a result of me playing with these cars, the wheels and the axles probably aren't in the best condition, but the car's in there, and, you know. By the way, if anybody happens to know about wheel swapping on Hot Wheels, I don't want to swap wheels on my Hot Wheels. I don't want to swap them for good, fancy rubber wheels. No, I don't want the real riders because those are slow on the track. What I want to do is I want to swap out the wheels. I want more plastic wheels. So, for example, this is another car that I had, this 1975 Rockbuster. Take a look at this one. That I had when I was a kid, and I played with a lot, which is why the driver's cage is all bent, and there may have been some other accessories that came with this that I don't have anymore. But the axles are bent, and so the car doesn't roll straight, so I can't introduce it into the fleet. So the only option I have is to swap out the wheels. But whenever I go online and look for wheels to swap, most of the people that are selling the wheels are selling premium wheels and real riders, similar to what's on this car here. Get the focus locked in. Like these kinds of wheels that are, I mean, these are great looking wheels. They've got tread, they've got the labels, the Goodrich label, BF Goodrich label. Great looking tires, but on our track they don't roll. Rubber wheels are no good on our track. So I'm looking for replacement, just regular plastic wheels that I can put on some of the older cars that I had from the 80s that I used to play with that are now so badly damaged that they're no good. I can't race them. All right, let's see. We've got the Mach It Go, we've got the Aston Martin, we've got the Dragon Blaster, and we've got this Porsche. So that's 4. And let's see. Which shall we go with next? So what are we doing? Fantasy, reality, fantasy, reality. We can go next with, this is absurd, and I'll put it in, but my expectations are pretty low. Or should I do this one? You know what? I was going to do that one. I'll save it, and I will instead go with, we've got 3 options. We've got the 77 Pontiac Firebird. And for some reason, I'm obsessed with these 64 Lincoln Continentals. I have them all over the place. I have this version, which is the high-end version. This was part of the Hollywood series from The Matrix, and so this one has premium wheels and a lot of details. It's very heavy. I have the mainline version of this, which means just the standard Hot Wheels edition with regular Hot Wheels wheels. And we raced it, and it's in the fleet. It's slow. And then I came across this one, this 64 Lincoln Continental, which the paint job is just fantastic. It's gold on the bottom. I love that. The wheels have gold I love that. And then there's a treasure hunt, which for people who don't collect Hot Wheels, and the reason why you can't see it is because this one's green. The treasure hunt cars, there's treasure hunts and super treasure hunts, and they're just special cars. The Super Treasure Hunt cars are definitely significantly different. They have different wheels, so I don't tend to be in the market for those. But we got this one, and this is the convertible 64 Lincoln Continental. So I am going to pick one of these three cars to introduce. Another Lincoln Continental? I think not. All right, we'll just go with this Pontiac, with this Firebird right here. So let's go ahead and crack this one open. This will be our fifth car. We will be opening up 6 cars, and of those 6, we will have a tournament, find out which car is going to be today's champion. I think the reason why I was hesitant to open this car up is, number one, I really do like this car. Let's switch over here. I really like this car. It is, but I don't like this particular paint scheme, and I prefer the traditional, the Smokey and the Bandit version, just the black, with the Firebird on the hood. This paint scheme does nothing for me, but I like the T-top. I like the car. My dad had one of these, so maybe that's part of what it is that he had one, and I remember that car fondly. So maybe that has something to do with it. Anyway, I like the car. Don't like the paint scheme, but it is different, so that might catch the eye of one of my students. So we'll see. We'll see how it does on the track. Let me enter that information. We are at car number 690. This is the 1977 Pontiac Firebird. And it says T/A. I'm not sure. Trans Am? Yeah, probably. What's on the hood? I'm not sure what that is. I know what it's not. It's not the Firebird that it should be. I don't know. Is that a... Oh, you know what it probably is? So since this is from the spring collection, it's probably a rabbit, I think. I think this is the head, and these are the ears. That's probably what it is. Hang on. I think I have the actual, the good. So I do have the yellow jacket. So I have this, these are some of the older cars that I had when I was a kid, and that need some help with the wheels, because again, I played with these. I don't know, I know there are people who collect Hot Wheels, keep them in the package, keep them sealed up, hang them on the wall. That's fine. When I was a kid, I played with the cars, and as a result of playing with the cars, I can't necessarily race them. But this is the version that I had when I was a kid, and this is the one that I like. And this is the Hot Bird right here. And that is, you can see the wheels are just, there's no way this thing would run down my track. And of course I could go on eBay and pay significantly more. I have no idea how much a new mint condition Hot Bird would be going for, but that is the car that I like. So I bought the yellow version, the newer version, and it's fine. But this is the one. That's the one that I have the fond memories of, and that is the the one that was most aligned, closest to that Smokey and the Bandit car. And if I can figure out a wheel swap, a plastic wheel swap, then that car will one day see the racetrack. But for today, it's not going to be the Hot Bird. It is going to be the 77 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am with the rabbit on the hood. Oh yeah, and even on the side. I guess they sort of modeled the flame into like a rabbit, sort of, possibly, because it's not the typical flame. It looks, so I think that's the whole theming on this. So that's what we've got. And even on the back of the package here, we can see this kind of rabbit logo. So I guess that's what we've got. And let's see how much this car weighs. It is 34.7, which is typically the range in which the cars do pretty well. So it's not totally unusual to see cars in that range do well, but we've got so many cars that are lighter, I don't know. So okay, let's see. Roughshod. He said number 35. Let's see. Let's go ahead and take a look and see. Car 35 is that the one? Okay, the Electrack. Number 35. So what I'll do is, let me go pull that, and we will take a closer look. 35. I'm telling you, it was such a pain the first time to get these cars organized, but once they are organized, it's a breeze. It is so much easier to find the cars. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at the Electrack, which is going to round out today's picks, because we just want to have 6 cars to race. So roughshod, let's take a look at the Electrack and see. Once again, we're always looking at that back end, and in this case, good pick, because it's got that flat back end, so it's got a lot of surface area that's going to press right up against that launching block. It appears that this is plastic car, probably sitting on a metal base. So once again, that's good, because it's going to keep that weight down, and the aerodynamics of it looks solid. So we might have a pretty interesting race. The Super Chrome. Let me see how much this actually weighs. Feels pretty light. So let's go here. 34.2 grams. So again, it's not a heavy car. It's right in the range of cars that tend to do well on the track. I'm just going to be curious to see what happens when it goes up against some of these lighter cars. But this is why we race the cars, and this is sort of the fun and excitement, is that we are at this point where we've picked the cars based on the observations, but we don't know how they're going to perform until we take them to the track. And it's just about time to take them to the track. When we take the cars to the track, this is what you are going to see. You are going to see a 3-camera view, and the cars will begin in the launching block at the top left of the left screen, and I will give a countdown, 3, 2, 1, race. The cars will come firing out of the launching block, and they will come toward the bottom of the screen. After they pass out of the bottom of the screen on the left, you can pick them up at the top of the screen in the center, the middle part of our track. The cars will come racing from top to bottom. After they pass out of the bottom of the middle section of the screen, they will appear at the top of the screen on the right, our finish line camera. The cars will come down and they will cross the finish line, And our finish line will indicate the winning car with a solid red light, and the losing car will be indicated by a flashing red light. So winning car, solid red light, losing car, flashing light, and that is that. The cars will switch lanes after every race. It's best 2 out of 3, so we will see how that works out. And each car will be eliminated after it has lost 2 races. And we will eventually crown a champion for today. And after we have crowned the champion for today, that car will have the opportunity to take on our fastest in fleet car, the Blitz Speeder, for the fastest in fleet crown. So we have 5 new cars that we are introducing, and then we have one, the Electrack, that Roughshod picked. And so one of these cars is going to emerge as champion, and then that car is going to take on the fastest in fleet car, the Blitz Speeder. So we are just moments away. I'm going to gather up these cars, and I am going to head over to the track, and we are going to find out. Again, my pick for today is that Mach It Go. I think that's going to be the car, but we are going to find out. And I am going over to, that Dragon. Roughshod's right. That Dragon car, it might definitely be a sleeper, because it's the lightest. Oh no, that little Porsche is the lightest, but that Dragon car, it's definitely a question mark at this point, but we're going to solve and answer those questions. I will see you over at the track in 30 seconds. Okay, here we go. We're all set up. Let me just double check the audio. 1, 2, 1, 2. Yep, we're good to go on the audio. So now it is time to hit the track and see which car is going to emerge to challenge the Blitz Speeder. So we got this Trans Am here, Dragon, Mach It Go, and the Electrack and the Vantage. I say we're going right off the back. I'm going to go Mach It Go versus the Aston Martin, and we will get these cars lined up and see what is going to be the outcome. So the Aston Martin is going to be in lane number 2. This is as I line the cars up, this is a wider car, which is typically a good idea. You want the wider cars have less back and forth play if they don't get a good launch. It's not really a problem for them to get back on track. They don't bounce around as much as the narrower cars. All right, so we've got the Mach It Go, which is the car I'm thinking is going to be pretty dominant. That's in lane 1. We've got the Aston Martin Vantage in lane 2. Here we go. First race of the day. Three, 2, 1, race. Oh, and what do I know? See, this is why you have to take the cars to the track. The Aston Martin beat the Mach It Go. I've been hyping up the Mach It Go for the last hour, thinking this is the car that's going to take out our fastest in fleet champion. And what does it do? It comes out in the very first race and gets beaten soundly. So now we're going to switch lanes and see if the Mach It Go can keep from going into the losers section, and that was not what I was expecting. I mean, ordinarily, the Aston Martin, it has the profile of a car that does well. It's wider, it's got a flat wing to press up against the launching block, and the weight is fine. But I just, I was going with history and the best for track designation and all of that. But here we go. This is race number 2. The cars have switched lanes. We've got the Mach It Go in lane 2. We've got the Aston Martin Vantage in lane 1. And this is race 2. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. Woo. Okay, so this time the Aston Martin crashed coming out of the gate, so we will restart that race. The rule around here is that if a car crashes once, then we simply throw out the results of that race and the cars set up and race again. If a car crashes twice consecutively, it is eliminated, typically. And the reason for that is that if a car crashes twice consecutively, then it's usually, there's a problem fundamentally with the car, and racing it, or not a problem with the car in terms of it's broken, just something with the design and the weight and the launch that it's going to get might make it incompatible with the track, and it's just going to continue to crash and have issues. So we're going to line these cars up again. We've got the Aston Martin in lane 1. We've got the Mach It Go in lane 2. And let me get it set up. Once again, the Aston Martin is up 1 race to nothing. 1 race to none. It took the first race pretty handily, and here we go with race number 2. Three, two, one, race. Okay, so now the Mach It Go took it. And let me see in the comments, the Mach It Go. Yeah, so let's see. It's very interesting because with this, again, 1/64th scale quarter-mile track, that it's one of the reasons why heavier cars don't do as well. Now, they do better on gravity tracks, but on our track, heavier cars tend to, the gravity actually gets to them, and they tend to slow down toward the back end of the track. So we will see. That's not the case with these cars, but it's now 1-1. We have the Mach It Go, which was my pick, against the Aston Martin Vantage, which is a solid pick, but still not the one that I thought would take the races. All right, so I'm getting these cars lined up. The Aston Martin is back in lane 2, which, trying to get these cars lined up just right. Okay, they are ready to go. This is race number 3. Whichever car takes this race will be moving on. Here we go. Mach It Go, lane 1. Aston Martin, lane 2. Three, two, one, race. Oh. And once again, Aston Martin pulls it out. So it looks like today, lane 2 so far has been the hot lane, but we will see how that plays out in the races that are upcoming. So the Aston Martin is the first car to move ahead. And next up, let's go with rough shots. Let's go with the Electrack versus the Trans Am. And we will get this in here, line them up, and we'll put the Electrack in lane number 2, and we will set the Pontiac up in lane number 1. Pontiac with the the Rabbit on the hood instead of the Firebird. All right, we've got these cars set up, and we'll see if lane 2 continues to be the hot lane of the day. Here we go, Electrack lane 2, Firebird lane 1, race 1. Here we go. Three, two, one, race. The Electrack took it, and that was not close. The Pontiac, you know, a decent showing, but nothing to brag about. But the Electrack took it. We are going to switch lanes and see if there's going to be a different outcome. However, given the margin of victory for the Electrack, I'm not expecting there to be much difference in the outcome, but you never know. That's exactly why we have to conduct these races, because you just don't know. So we'll get the Pontiac lined up in lane 2, get the Electrack in lane 1. Okay, here we go. Race 2, Electrack lane 1, Firebird lane 2. Let's go. Three, two, one, race. Oh! Lane 2 is hot today. This is unusual. The Firebird took that race, and we are going to see here. All right. It is, now I test the track out beforehand, before we begin streaming, and just to make sure that everything is as it should be. And was in the preliminary races this morning, there were no unusual outcomes, nothing strange, that we weren't seeing anything, any dominance from one particular lane, so there's not really a reason why that should be the case, but we are seeing what we're seeing. So the Firebird is now in lane number 1. The Electrack is back in lane number 2. And let's see. Here we go. This is race number 3. Electrack lane 2, Firebird lane 1. Here we go. Three, two, one, race. Once again, lane 2, Electrack takes it. So what I'm going to do is, the Electrack is moving on, and before we launch or have the next race, I am going to make an adjustment, and that adjustment means I am going to change the band on the track, on the launcher, just to double check everything. So far we've got the Electrack, and we have the Aston Martin that are awaiting the outcome. The next race, let me go ahead and grab a new band, and I will get this swapped out here. Once again, I designed this launcher through a lot of trial and error, and based on my experience and the needs for All About Aerodynamics. And one of the things, the most important things, was to get the cars moving at a higher rate of speed, because the faster a car moves, an object moves through the air, the more impact drag has on the vehicle. And the launchers that you could buy in the stores just didn't launch the cars out with enough force and enough speed. So I designed this specifically to give a lot of speed. And we see the results of that in the outcomes of some of these races. All right, so next up we're going to have the Dragon Blaster against the Porsche. and these are the two lightest cars. So let me put the Dragon Blaster in lane number 1, and I'm seeing. Okay, so now we've got an interesting kind of dilemma. So because the cars come out with so much force, I had to create these acrylic covers to keep them on the track at the launch, at the point of launching. But what's happened is and I have two versions. I have a taller version for taller cars. So the Dragon Blaster, because of the tail on the Dragon, I'm going to have to use the taller version to keep it on the track. But now that kind of hurts the smaller Porsche because it does not have the luxury of the low acrylic cover to help keep it on the track. So we're going to see what happens. I have a feeling that the Porsche might crash, but I don't know. So this is race 1. We've got the Dragon Blaster in lane 1. We've got the Porsche in lane 2, the two lightest cars of the day. And in one case, I think this Porsche might be the lightest car that we've raced in some time. So here we go, race number 1. Three, two, one, race. Okay, and as expected, the Porsche crashed. I think it's specifically because it didn't have that cover. So I have a trick that I am going to try and use to keep the Porsche in place, and at the same time we saw the Dragon Blaster made it down the track, so I am going to see. I'm going to see if this works. It may. So we're going to restart that race. The Porsche is going to be in lane number 2 again. And let me go get the Dragon Blaster, because that will be back in lane 1. The Dragon Blaster seemed pretty quick, but it didn't actually have a competitor to race against, so it's hard to tell how fast it actually was. So let's get the Dragon Blaster line back up, and we will see here. And the answer to that question of whether or not the tail and the tailpipes were evenly stuck out an even amount, it turns out the tailpipes are the part that is touching the launching block, and the tail is just like a millimeter or so shorter than that. So here we go. Let me see if I can get this done. All right, so we've got the Dragon Blaster lane 1. We have the Porsche in lane 2, and I am going to try and keep the Porsche on the track this time. Here we go. Three, two, one, race. I was able to keep the Porsche on the track, and the Porsche took it. So lane 2 dominance. Even once I switched out the band on the track, lane 2 continues to be the hot lane of the day, and we have our first winner in this match of the light cars. They're going to switch lanes, and then we are going to see if the Dragon Blaster can force a third race, which is exactly what we've seen so far. We've gone to the third and final deciding race in both of our contests today, and the question is, can the Porsche be the first car today to pull out a win from lane 2? We will see. Or will the Dragon Blaster keep up the lane 2 supremacy and take the title? So here we go. Race number 2. 3, 2, 1, race. Lane 1, finally, a victory is claimed out of lane 1, and that is the Porsche. The Porsche made it. The Dragon Blaster had a good showing. It's a fast enough car, but it was not able to defeat the Porsche. And so we now are down to our final 3. We've got the Electrack, the Vantage, the Aston Martin Vantage, and this Porsche 904 Carrera. So let's go ahead and go Electrack versus Vantage and see which car will move on to the finals against the Porsche. And all right, so we're gonna go Vantage lane 1, and we will go with the Electrack in lane 2. The cars are lined up and ready to go. This is race 1. The Vantage in lane 1, the Electrack in lane 2. Here we go. Three, 2, 1, race. Oh! Wow, those cars were creeping down the track, and then the Electrack just seemed to run out of gas about 3/4 of the way down, and then the Vantage just pulled ahead and pulled out the win. So that was unusual. It was unusually slow for both cars, which we don't typically see at the track, but the Vantage somehow managed to pull out that win. Now we will go to race number 2 and see if the Electrack can force a third and decisive race. So let's see here. We've got the Electrack. We're going to go in lane number 1. And we have the Vantage in lane number 2, ready to go. All right, here we go. Race number 2. Vantage lane 2, Electrack lane 1. Here we go. Three, 2, 1, race. Okay, so that race, cars seem to be moving at a faster pace, but once again, the Vantage took it. So the Vantage takes 2 races in a row, and it will be moving on to the finals today against the Porsche 904 Carrera GTS, our lightest car of the day, and we will see which of these cars comes out on top and which car gets to take on the Blitz Speeder for the fastest in fleet title. All right, let's get these cars set up here. It has been a good day for cars in lane number 2, but we will see. But we have seen a couple of cars, both of these cars have taken lanes out of lane 1, gotten wins out of lane 1. So either way, we're going to find out right now. We've got our lightest car against the more traditional car. So the Porsche is in lane 1, the Aston Martin's in lane 2. Let's see what happens. Three, 2, 1, race. Okay, so even though both cars eventually ended up on the same track, what happened there is the Aston Martin got a pretty traditional launch and took off down the track. The Porsche, because it's so narrow, it was sliding down the track at an angle for a little while until it righted itself and straightened out. And that's sort of the downside of the smaller car, is that you're never really sure how the force that the launcher fires it out with is going to affect it. And strange things can happen and have happened. So we have the Porsche now in lane 2. The Vantage is in lane 1. And we will see if the Porsche can pull out this win and force a third and final race. Here we go. Race number 2. 3, 2, 1, race. Oh. Very close, but the Aston Martin Vantage, it actually took the race and is today's champion. It is the car that I think I downplayed its ability to compete today. It had a big flat wing. It's a wider car, and so it is the kind of car that traditionally does well on the track. So the Aston Martin Vantage is our champion for today. But the real question is, can it beat the fastest in fleet car, the Blitz Speeder? And we are about to find out the answer to that question as I get these cars lined up and set up and ready to go. So let's see here. Okay, we're going to have the Blitz Speeder in lane number 1. We will have the Aston Martin Vantage GTE in lane number 2. All right. These cars are ready to go. This is for the fastest in fleet championship. We've got the Blitz Speeder in lane 1, Aston Martin Vantage GTE lane 2. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. Wow. The Blitz Speeder annihilated the Aston Martin. And I mean, that looked like just light work for the Blitz Speeder. But just as we saw last week, it is possible, because the Blitz Speeder lost its first race last week against the slide kick and came back and had to win 2 races in a row. So it is possible. We have seen it many times in the past that a car loses the first race, comes back, and wins 2. But the problem is that margin of victory was so extreme that it probably just suggests that the Blitz Speeder is in fact the faster car, and there's nothing that the Aston Martin can do about it. But we still have the races anyway, because you never know what can happen. So the Blitz Speeder is in lane number 2. Aston Martin Vantage is in lane 1. Aston Martin needs to take this race to force a decisive third race, or the Blitz Speeder will remain our fastest in fleet champion. Here we go. Three, two, one, race. The Blitz Speeder remains the fastest in fleet car. It is hands down one of the fastest cars we've seen on the track, and it showed that again today. Let me gather up these cars, head back into the garage, and then we will take a look at our winners and what's coming up. So the Blitz Speeder remains our champion, fastest in fleet. That performance was as dominant as its previous performances, and really, other than that race against the slide kick, we haven't seen the Blitz Speeder even kind of be in a little bit of trouble in a race. If you want to see that race and that matchup that happened as a result of, it was the Henry Stanislavski Open Challenge that occurred last week, you can go to our YouTube channel and you can click the live tab and you can scroll through and just scroll. You only have to scroll back 1 week to see that episode. And of course, thanks to Race Grooves, who explained to me how to properly add chapters to the videos. All of the videos have time codes and chapter markers, so if you just want to see the reviews, you can do that. If you want to see the whole results of the Henry Stanislavski Open Challenge, you can do that as well, and you can see the race in which the slide kick almost took out the Blitz Speeder, but it did not. And so the Blitz Speeder remains our champion, fastest in fleet, and we had a good mix of cars today. Some lighter, some heavier, some traditional, and still the Blitz Speeder came out on top. And we now have 690 cars in the All About Aerodynamics at the Track Live fleet. And that means there are 689 cars for you to choose from to try and pick a car that is faster than the Blitz Speeder. The odds are that there is a car faster than the Blitz Speeder, but until we find that car, the Blitz Speeder is our champion. And you can go through during the week. Like I said, I'm trying to get the search function issue resolved so that you don't have to actually just scroll through all of these cars, and you could actually search if you know the car that you're looking for. But until then, I would say, hey, just visit the page as many times as you want during the week, and then when we're up here on Saturday, you'll have your car locked and loaded. You won't know which other 6 cars are going to compete that I'm going to crack open, but you do know that the Blitz Speeder is the fastest. So if you approach it with the thought in mind of which car can beat the Blitz Speeder or compete with the Blitz Speeder, then it shouldn't really matter what the other 5 or 6 cars are that get introduced, because if you've picked a car that can compete with the Blitz Speeder, it can probably beat the 5 random cars that get introduced. But I suggest just go through, scroll through. There are so many different kinds and types of cars. There are character cars, fantasy cars. There are trucks. There are cars from the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. There are we even have this. We've got the some premium cars in here. The Back to the Future DeLorean, metal on metal, with, even though those wheels have nice detailed printing on them, they are plastic, but this car is heavy, and you kind of saw how heavy cars fare on our track. But if that's the car you want to pick, there's the number 225. You just drop it into the chat, and when you do that, then I can pull the car, and once I pull the car, then we can take it to the track. And so today, Roughshod had picked the Electrack, and the Electrack performed pretty well. And then it got to that matchup against the Vantage, and I think it was against the Vantage, and just didn't have it. But then the Vantage was looking great until it came up against the Blitz Speeder, and we saw why the Blitz Speeder's champion. If you think this fire truck, the 5-alarm, if for some reason you think that's the car to pick, then go ahead and pick it, and we can race it. But I wouldn't pick it if that were me. But you know, this Nerve Hammer gets picked quite frequently by the students. It's a decent car. It's a good pick, good solid pick. And there are plenty of cars that have not raced against during this At the Track Live process, and there's some cars that have never been picked, that no student has ever picked. So for example, this Volkswagen Kaffer Racer has never been picked. Maybe with good reason, but it's never been picked. I would like to see it race because I'm kind of curious about that design. But you know, the odds are that there's a car in here that is faster than the Blitz Speeder. I just don't know which car that is. And if you think you can figure it out, all you have to do is pick that car, look at the number. I've done all the work to catalog the cars, pick that number, and drop it into the chat next week. I'll pull that car. This BMW i8 Roadster. I think this is one of the Hot Wheels ID cars that I presume they discontinued that line, but it was the cars that had the little chip. And if you bought this really expensive track with these really expensive accessories, then you could race the cars and it would give you information about how your car performed, which is great, except it only worked with these particular cars that were a little more expensive, and I guess Hot Wheels or Mattel just stopped making those, or at least if they still continue, I haven't seen them in a long time. But we have some of those cars in here. So there's a whole range. Whatever car you think would be fastest, go ahead, pick it, and I will be more than happy to bring it to the track and see if in fact you are correct. So once again, if you would like more information about our science program all about aerodynamics, all you have to do is go to our website, aaerodynamics.com, and you can learn all about the different offerings, or you can just follow us on Instagram, aaerodynamics, and you will get all kinds of updates about what we're doing. I go live on Instagram. I will be doing a lot more of that beginning in August, where I will be previewing some of the cars that are going to race on Saturday. So then you'll already have an idea of which cars are going to be in the lineup. I also plan to start doing a series of midweek races that are not necessarily cars that are going to be in the fleet, but just interesting race concepts and matchups. So there's a lot going on, and the best way to keep up with everything that will be happening and is happening is follow us on Instagram, AA Aerodynamics. I'm going to start trying to do a little bit more on our TikTok channel, but I'm not going to be up there doing any funny dances. So until I can kind of dial in what the content is going to be, the TikTok offerings are a little light, but this is where to go right now. Instagram, AA Aerodynamics, and you can keep up with everything that is happening with all about aerodynamics and AtTheTrack.live, where we are here every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific time, introducing cars, reviewing cars, and racing cars. That is pretty much what it's all about, having some fun. Thank you, Roughshod, for your suggestions and for interacting and participating. And I keep telling people, this is the time to get in. This is the time when we can have this interaction and you can pick your cars and do this, because I'm expecting this to get even bigger and bigger and bigger, and we'll have more people making suggestions for cars they want to see, and I'll have to figure out I'll have to have super chats and this and that, and figure out how to pick which car is going to be raced, because we're not going to be able to race all the cars. But right now is the time to get in. This is the time. You're in on the ground floor, because we're only going up from here. So until next week, I am Coach James for All About Aerodynamics and At The Track Live. And until next week, see you at the races.